Hello to everyone who was able to find this review on the second channel. Luke here. I know that my channel has been dead for like around 6 to 7 months, but I can explain on that. I've just been occupied with real life stuff though, not just really from my job, but also gaming. Up until July, where I started to record some gameplay first from Sackboy, Ratchet and Clank, and Lego Horizon. Well, Lego Horizon was pretty much the last one that I decided to do some gameplay recording. And I didn't really complete Lego Horizon, so it's not actually fully finished. But I got the review for the Horizon segment and the Ratchet Clank segment done, so I only got Sackboy to finish. So in the meantime, while you guys are waiting for that, I decided to upload this review of the Lego Horizon segment onto my second channel. So I hope you will enjoy it, and I promise you that I will get that video finished around November. But happy Halloween as well. Anyways, enjoy. Lego Horizon is one out of the 2 Horizon spin-off games released during the PS5 era, and unsurprisingly, it's the first Sony game to ever be a multi-platform release on other systems. No, MLB doesn't count. Lego Horizon is very much a different game compared to the first 2 mainline games. It pretty much played just like most of the Traveler's Tales Lego games ever since. It's a linear design game with loads of platforming combat accounts in each area, a co-op mode that you can play with a friend, and this game's plot is a retelling of the first game, Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm actually not familiar with the Horizon series myself, only finished the Lego game instead. But for this video, I decided to boot up the original game to get familiar so I have context for the Lego game. And from what I played and from what I can gather in this video of someone who played through the entirety of both games, most of the story from the original is very much somewhat almost the same as the Lego game. There are differences with both games' story beats, like how Aloy got her scanning ability. Other hunters who weren't playable in the original game come with you on your journey, in which you can actually play as them as well, which is pretty much their workaround for including co-op in the game, and pretty much losing a couple of features that were odd omissions that were very much expected. Now, understandably, I get why they had to remove a couple of mechanics since the level of design just wouldn't work with how it is structured, and with how they decided to scrap that crafting mechanic and replace it with the elemental weapons and gadgets. I think it was a good move to do that. But to not have crucial mechanics that were in the TT Lego games like special abilities, extra collectibles, clever puzzles, and the hijacking ability from Horizon, it feels a lot more empty than what we got from the old Lego games. Now, I understand this game does have a lot of collectibles like the gold and red bricks that you could collect in each of the 5 areas of the game. The outfits that you can unlock are pretty jam-packed, and you're not limited to who can wear what. You can even throw one of your villagers in the town into one of the closets that you build in the game. You can have Grandma wear a construction worker's outfit, Aloy can be Sackboy, and Faro as you can even customize the town if you like. You can actually replace the roofs on the buildings with cool stuff like a roller coaster, place decorations, small attractions, and even replace the area's floor with a different color of the grass. But with that being said,
oh my fucking god, I just let me fucking leave. I actually don't want to keep fighting enemies. I want to skip it. I just want to...
Lego Horizon have a lot of problems that keeps them from being a really good platformer in my eyes. It does have a problem with how the levels are structured. You pretty much explore a section of the level by platforming and sometimes even leaving the area at the end. And sometimes at the end of each area, there are arena challenges where you have to fight a bunch of enemies and or big robot dinosaurs before you can even explore more. But it's not even a bad structure for the game. It works very well for what it can do. It's just that if you're going to be doing the same thing over and over again without any unique variety or way that could change the structure of the game, just don't be surprised when people pretty much compare it to a bad licensed video game. Cause the structure of each level goes like this. You explore the level by platforming to the arena and take out most of the enemies to progress. But then in the next area, you pretty much do the same things that you did in the previous area, and it doesn't change a lot. The only thing that is different though is sometimes you don't actually have to fight enemies to progress, but not even like a vehicle section that can actually help spice the game a little bit. If you somewhat go off the beaten path, you're pretty much only gonna get rewarded with studs and such. In fact, treasure chests and building some small structures like hot dogs only reward you studs. And that's pretty much the problem why this game unfortunately feels like you are going through the motions. Repeating patterns, getting rewarded with less or even nothing. Dying constantly and going through the same familiar areas that you already went through just so you can see something different in the next area. And even then, the fucking game is so badly optimized for PC that you seriously need to dig through the settings to get the game running at a consistent frame rate. Especially if you use a recording program, which pretty much gives more work for the CPU and GPU. Really, the recommended spec says that you need a 3070 or a 6800 to run the game properly. Man, it's so hard to give compliments to a game that's at least not great. And I'm not even sure if I want to keep going. I haven't even talked about the other playable characters that you could choose. Although, I guess there are positives that I could give to this game. It looks so beautiful for a LEGO game. The lighting and the texture work is done super well. The world is miraculously designed like a LEGO set. They limited the animations just like how the LEGO figures move. They used the LEGO movie as an inspiration for the entire game, and they did a really good job capturing the feeling of a LEGO made movie. Although, do you remember when I said that there's barely no variety for the entire game? I was kinda mostly lying. The dungeons are pretty much the best levels I have ever played, and it's pretty obvious that the original in the LEGO game took some notes on the Legend of Zelda series and made the dungeons a puzzle focused area that you have to figure out. It's not as complicated in the LEGO games than it was in the original, but it's still well made. And there's even boss fights in most of the dungeons that you have to fight at the end to end the level. And from what I played, the boss fights were actually really good. And I guess the last thing I will talk about before ending my thoughts on the game is the playable characters. Aloy is the arrow shooter and can hit enemies from afar, and she's pretty much the all-around character. Barl is actually the same as Aloy with the benefit of his ability to pierce through enemies with his spear. And having a fat ass. Eren is pretty much actually my favorite character to play as, but I'll get into him in a little bit, because first of all, Teersa. Oh man, Teersa, what have they done to you after launch? Okay, before we continue, I have a confession to make. I pre-ordered the digital deluxe edition of the game. Why? Well, because I wanted to get the extra costumes and that silly looking roller coaster thing. Why did I confess I wasted my money on the game? Well, you see, there's this playable character in the game named Teersa. She pretty much throws her projectiles in an arc. They do a ton of damage to enemies, which sounds pretty good, but there's a problem with how this character attacks, more or less. You see, when you aim to attack an enemy, you aim with the left stick in one direction because, well, it makes sense. You have to be moving a lot to avoid getting attacked a lot. Moving and planning out an attack is how the game is supposed to work. It's how the original is. The original may be more complicated, it has a lot more to do than the LEGO game, but moving and planning is still a factor. It's why when you're aiming a weapon at an enemy, there's a reason why you can only aim in a straight line and on the ground. Because this game decided to make the left analog stick aim at any direction on the ground. If this game actually lets you aim at any direction, not on the ground but even in the air, it will not also feel awkward to aim with the left analog stick, but it will also even make the combat feel more frustrating because you're trying to like aim at a weak point to kill the enemy, but you also have to like dodge out of the way so you don't get killed easily because you pretty much die in like a couple of hits. And that's the reason why Aloy for the rat attacks works just like that. It works for the way the game was designed. But for Teersa's attack, it does not work. It really doesn't. If you hold the attack button to aim your projectile, you can actually aim anywhere you want to throw it. In theory, it's pretty much useful because you could take advantage of this character and pretty much attack enemies who are behind a small hill or behind a pile of metal. And there's a cheese method that you can use by attacking enemies on top of the hill, so you don't have to like engage with the enemies. But in execution, you are at a disadvantage. If the enemies are always coming your way, or if they do in a shockwave, you're supposed to be jumping or moving out of the way to avoid damage. But if you're trying to aim your projectile to his weak point and an attack is coming, you don't have enough of a reaction time to jump and avoid it. In fact, you pretty much are gonna lose your health very quickly if you're on a higher difficulty. And so Tirsa is very much the worst character to play as. Well, unless you were playing the game earlier at launch. See, Tirsa's windup was broken at launch and you could just spam the button and throw more projectiles and pretty much annihilate enemies in a flash. I mean, you're still vulnerable, you have to dodge out of the way. But you can still spam the button to destroy the enemies much quickly before you can set Concord. But unfortunately, they fixed the bug where you have to wait for a few seconds to throw another one. And so, Tirsa is the worst playable character in the game. Although that's very funny because in my first playthrough, I had considered Ratchet to be the #1 worst character in the game. And that's more or less due to one thing about him. He's a melee-focused character. You can't use the environment to your advantage by aiming at a fireplace and setting a machine on fire. More or less though, you can't actually do that to Tirsa since they both play very differently. If you just use your hammer attack at a fireplace to get to the chest, you just set yourself on fire. And no, you can't set the grass on fire if you are on fire. But when I went back to do a second playthrough, I started to absolutely love playing as him. In fact, I think he has a bigger advantage than the other 3 characters. He hits hard as Tirsa's projectiles, but he can pretty much move out of the firing site much quickly with his attack. The only disadvantage that he has is setting off an explosive that an enemy is holding and not using the environment to deal extra damage. But his huge damage output and his far attack range makes up for his small shortcomings, and with his advantages, makes him the best character in the game.
Ah, you think too much. Sometimes you just gotta relax. Breathe. Eat a donut. You should try one. It's from the donut.
Julian is a hungry world. It can eat you alive. And to prove it, here's my tier list of all the playable characters. Although I'm gonna move Tirsa to a lower ranking. There. Alright, perfect. Lego Horizon, 6 out of 10. Yeah, sadly, the game is not really great. Pacing problems, character that plays better or worse, bad optimizations, boring level designs, the same environment you see constantly, and an overpriced game that should have been $30. And worst of all, Sony's second biggest failure this year. That shows how incompetent Sony is thinking that a game like this would even be as successful. Yeah, and that pretty much proves how good Astro Ball will stand the test of time. And it especially shows how big corporations that fund Nintendo style games will always win, and not this Lego garbage that has piss poor optimization. However, despite showing all of the cracks of the game and show how much it fails in most aspects, despite its flaws, I actually still like it. I mean, I don't see it as a good game, far from it, but I actually enjoyed my time with it. And I'm so glad I decided to give Horizon an experiment with a simple Lego game. And that's the thing, they did not pull it off on the first try. Sony and the Lego company had some meddling with the marketing, the development time, and gave it a premium price for a 6-hour-long game. But I'm glad they got the devs to try something unique. Taking a somewhat mature game that is rated T for teen, adapting it into a Lego game, and marketing it to the younger audiences who enjoy video games. And even if you don't like it and see it as mid, you should still look at it with some positives and look at what should be improved and what needs to be removed. Or you could just treat this game like the next Concord and make fun of the devs who made the game. Yeah, that could work out too. Okay, so if there's anything that I want to say about how everyone online reacted to the failure of Lego Horizon, I'd say that it's odd. Like, okay, so we all know that Sony was trying to hype up this live service game named Concord, yet there was so much that went wrong that pretty much became the biggest failure in gaming history. Most of the factors for its failure is a lot of things. A live service game, even though it's oversaturated in the modern day. Game costs $40 and not free to play. Hundreds of millions of dollars lost in the development of the game. poor marketing of the game, and yet expected this to last for years and enough money to support it. Character designs are bland and mediocre. Marvel levels of bad writing, and pretty much bad management at the game studio Firewalk. All of these problems combined into the travesty we called Concord. And now this game has the label of everything wrong with modern Sony, and why Sony has lost its magic ever since the PS3. Yet even then, Sony wasn't even part of the project to begin with. There's like a huge untold story that so many people don't even know about. Probably Monsters, a company that hasn't even shipped the game in their entire existence, was in charge of the project up until they decided to sell the team and the Concord license to Sony in April of 2023. But like, that's a story too complicated for me to talk about in this video. And if I went full in depth about the development of the game in this video, I'm pretty much just gonna start losing track and then won't be able to get back to the review of the game. Concord didn't even stand out of the crowd. Overwatch and Marvel Rivals shows that good character design is very important for a live service game to succeed. And Concord proves that if you just get lazy with the character designs, just create a random character without thinking about the character's body weight, their personality, their traits, etc., don't be surprised when your audience label these as like the worst character design in all of gaming history. Not because they're bad or awful or unfunny. There's nothing to talk about, nothing bad to talk about, or anything good or memorable. The design of the character is just the same character in the original game, in Lego form, but a game that performed worse than Concord at launch. That would never actually be the thing that I would expect on my bingo card. But there are counterparts to the argument that others would say it was expected that a Lego game would flop. Number 1, the price. Others say that it's overpriced and is only like 5 hours long. The game should have costed around $20 to $30 at a maximum for the entire package. I actually played the game before and recorded some footage for a video I was trying to make before 2025. But unfortunately, I decided to delete the recording because I didn't think I needed that. Although on my first playthrough, I felt the game was a little longer, like around 6 to 7 hours. But I do agree that the game should have been cheaper. But my guess is that the team who worked on the game felt like they put a lot of effort into making the game look as good as it can get, trying to emulate the same style and feeling like the Lego movie did. And from what I've seen, they actually did a good job with what they had, just not enough to make the gameplay engaging in its entirety. The game's optimization is fucking horrid. You need an 8GB VRAM to play on the recommended settings. This one part is what I have to 100% agree upon. Nintendo is the only company that is the king of optimization and reducing the game's file size. Companies are getting too lazy to optimize for people who are on lower end specs. What's worse is that most of the games are consistently using the processor more than the graphics card that can actually help with the game running better. Yet even worse, GPUs and hardware companies are also getting lazier as well. Oh my god, Horizon again? Why the fuck are they pushing this stupid ass franchise? We literally got like the sequel in 2022. Why do we have like a Lego game and then a Horizon game last year? Plus they even released a Horizon Zero Dawn remaster when it shouldn't even fucking need it. Who's making these decisions? Yeah, I could understand why people were getting upset. From what I can hear, did not think that the story was good enough to be compelling, which made them unable to connect with Aloy, the main character of the game. And with the announcement of a couple of games releasing around 2 years in a row, people are pretty much gonna get sick and tired of wanting to see any new information about the games in the franchise. In fact, Lego Horizon Adventure, as I previously stated before, it's just a retelling of the first game. But unfortunately, Lego Horizon pretty much released at the worst time because there was actually a remaster that was releasing in October that year. And with the game pretty much releasing on November 14th with a $60 price tag, it was pretty much shown that it was the worst time to actually release another Horizon game. And with that, Lego Horizon only had a peak of around 429 players during the launch on Steam. It sucks to be honest, but at the same time, you can't really blame people for not knowing that there was a Lego Horizon game during that year. Could the game be better? Yeah, it could have, but I don't believe that it shouldn't have tried to begin with. There were mistakes, but I think they could actually do better though if they were given a chance to do a sequel. And that's the most compliment that I can give to the team. Yeah, I know that I started the video off with a game that is divisive, and others will be questioning on why starting a mid-platforming game is a good idea. But I think it's best to start with something that had trouble and did not work for the first time. But I kinda recommend it to the other people who are interested in playing the game to try it out right now. I mean, I like the game despite its flaws. And others who pretty much came to this video are interested in the game might actually like it as much as I would. I mean, the game has Sackboy in there. I'm not too sure how LBP fans feel when their favorite baby doll was locked behind a digital deluxe edition of the game. But there's a costume. Actually, speaking of baby dolls...